and welcome to the NXT review. I'm Adam Wilborn from What Culture. On my own today, the Dadley Boyz enjoying well-earned days off. Don't worry, they will be returning in the coming days, but I'm here to tell you everything that happened on last night's episode of NXT New Year's Evil. But before I get into it, if you're a fan of this sort of thing, make sure you subscribe to What Culture Wrestling on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, wherever you get your podcasts from, for daily wrestling podcasts, where we not only review the show formerly known as NXT 2.0, but also I'm 1 hour off from SmackDown. Pay-per-views, premium live events. We have interviews, roundtable discussions, and a roundup that we complete with a bloody good quiz, of course, on wrestle culture. As I said, though, the Michaels aren't back yet from their festive break, so it's just going to be me talking about NXT. And I think with these sorts of things, especially when it's just you on your own, you have to kind of take a step back, listen to what the wider wrestling industry is saying, and then give the sort of objective take on it all, which is why NXT New Year's Evil is officially Show of the Year. Name me a television special that has happened in 2024 better than this show. You can't. Thank you very much. Case closed. So let's dive into this show because I've really missed NXT. I said yesterday on the Raw review how I just took a bit of a break from wrestling over Christmas. I kept up with, World's End and that sort of thing. But generally, in terms of like watching weekly television, I thought now's the time to take a step back from it all. So I really enjoyed getting back into it, watching Raw yesterday. And then this is my real passion, if I'm perfectly honest. It's NXT because it's this weird mixture of genuinely brilliant wrestling. People sort of dismiss it because it's the developmental brand and because they do some wacky bollocks sometimes. But I'm going to get onto it later on. Wacky and wild spot in that six-man.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God.
He's going to stay with me, hopefully, for the entire year. I hope I still remember to mention it when we do our recap of 2024 because it was jaw-dropping. And you have, great matches, amazing spots like that, and then all the usual nonsense that you get with NXT mixed in to breakout performances, as we saw as well on last night's show. But let's start at the beginning of the show, where we at least got one of the two huge title matches that were advertised. It was the NXT Women's Championship match. It was Lyra Valkyria defending her title against Blair Davenport. Obviously, these two got a great deal of history together in NXT UK, and their past experiences seem to inform this match because these two beat the crap out of each other. Really snug stuff. I really enjoyed it. Arguably match of the night for me. As I said, it may well have been on the preview yesterday. Early on, we get Blair hanging Lyra in the ropes and then hitting a double stomp to the back to get a 2 count. Valkyria comes back into it, misses the high crossbody, but comes back with a fisherman's suplex. She goes up top and then gets dragged down with an amazing super Falcon Arrow from Blair Davenport. But before Davenport can cover her, Valkyria wisely rolls to the outside. They brawl a bit around out there, around the announce desk. Davenport sort of propped her up against the against the table, went for a huge knee. Valkyria moved, and then just was this hole created by Blair's knee, and that meant she was selling her knee for the rest of the match, basically. Davenport, when they go back inside, goes for a suplex, but the knee gives out, goes for a double stomp after the one she did earlier, but this time Valkyria moves. Davenport again lands on the mat, sort of tweaks her knee. Valkyria boots her in the face, hits her with that Samoan driver finish. 1, 2, 3. Lyra Valkyria retain the NXT Women's Championship. And you know me on this sort of thing. I'm really averse to saying, I told you so. But on yesterday's preview, if you listen to the podcast, What Culture Wrestling Podcast, wherever you get your podcast from, I literally called this exact thing happening. I said, I don't really know what's going on with the whole Lola Vice winning the women's breakout tournament and getting a title opportunity. And I don't think NXT does either, because they hadn't decided whether it was just, an opportunity at a title match further down the road, or effectively NXT's Money in the Bank. And they've decided it's the latter, which I love, because immediately after this match, Lola Vice sprints down to the ring to attempt to cash in and get her women's title match then and there, obviously with Valkyria having been gone through it with Blair Davenport. But before anything can happen, here comes here comes Tatum Paxley dressed like Dennis the Menace. And me and Nicholas have looked this up. US listeners will have to Google Dennis the Menace because well, ours is better than yours, to be perfectly honest. And that's exactly what Tatum Paxley was dressed like. She's doing this creepy obsession thing with Valkyria. It was revisited later on in the show. She attacked Vice. Elektra Lopez comes down. Big brawl. Officials pull them apart so the cash-in doesn't happen. Not only did I say there might be a cash-in, I also called Tatum Paxley's involvement in all this. But the right decision, in my opinion, was made. Obviously, Valkyria going over Davenport, and Davenport's going off in a different direction with Nikita Lyons, as we saw later on this show. And yeah, the weirdness with Tatum Paxley and Lyra Valkyria looks set to continue. Now, during this match, there was a little crawler at the bottom of the show. That's not a new character. I mean the text thing at the bottom of the screen that said there was some breaking news, and unfortunately, what would the crawler look like, Adam? He'd be a worm and just like crawl across the screen. You ever seen that clip of someone like in a festival doing a worm across like the muddiest Glastonbury ever? Yeah. That's what the crawler would be. It would be. So they like arse in the air and then down again, and then arse in the air and then down again. That's NXT's new character, the crawler. But yeah, unfortunately, no NXT Men's Championship match tonight. Ilya Dragunov wanted to fight, of course he did, but he was not medically cleared to compete. That was a bit annoying, if I'm perfectly honest. But what we got later was not an adequate replacement, but enjoyable nonetheless. We'll circle back to that a little bit later, because then we got that awesome six-man with, I called this as well, but I think everyone could have called the fact that Joaquin Wilde and Cruz del Toro needed a partner with Dragon Lee with those visa issues, which I hope were going to be cleared up very, very soon. And so Carlito appeared to help them against the No Quarter Catch crew, Drew Gulak, Damon Kemp, and Miles Bourne. And, apologies to the rest of this match, but I just want to talk about that insane dive. So, back and forth early on, Carlito's being safe for the hot tag, and then the heels use a distraction to get a cheap shot in, lay the boots in. Everyone comes in. The No Quarter Catch crew gets sent to the outside, and Joaquin Wilde looks like he's going to do a big... I thought, because he was jumping from inside the ring, I thought he was going to grab the top rope and just do one of those spinny things over the top of it, basically, whilst Carlito and Cruz del Toro just watch on. That did not happen. What happened was he jumped from the inside of the ring to the outside of the ring, and everyone went, ugh. And then he positioned himself on the middle rope and got the crowd's attention. Everyone's like, okay, yeah, go on, do your dive. And he goes, LWO. And Carlito and Del Toro at this point springboard, like fire the second rope as he's jumping off it. It's the most, you have to see it. It is the most preposterous dive. He genuinely almost hits the ceiling, it feels like, watching it back. I mean,
Oh my God.
it was incredible. I'll share it on my social, at Adam Wilborn, if you want to see this clip, because it was jaw-dropping. We got Vic Joseph very much in the teachable moment mindset off the back of it. Booker T was speechless, and not in just not listening to Vic Joseph, as he did in some points of this show spot. So... then off the back of that, the LWO get isolated. We get a Carlito hot tag. Obviously, he comes in, cleans house. The finish saw Wilde take out Gulak and Bourne with a big corkscrew senton off the top to the floor, which was great. It's just like once you've done that, everything else just seems a bit lesser in comparison. Kemp went for an O'Connor roll on Carlito, but there'd been a blind tag to Del Toro. So Kemp got hit with a backstabber from Carlito. Del Toro hit the Phoenix Splash. 1, 2, 3. Afterwards, Gulak's bollocking the rest of the No Quarter Catch crew on the outside. Carlito rolls out there and spits some apple in his face for good measure. Then Kelly's backstage with Trick and Mello. Trick obviously gutted that he has not got the title match this evening, but he's a good guy. He wishes Ilya the best and says, look, when you're ready, when you're healthy, let's have the match. Mello, all a bit suspicious of this, saying, well, I reckon he'd have beaten him tonight, but, it's very convenient that he's not been medically cleared for all this. In comes Grayson Bloody Waller, who says, I don't think it was fortunate, because there's no way you'd have won that. And Trick's like, well, I won the Iron Survivor match. And Grayson's like, well, I won the Iron Survivor match not last year, 2 years ago. And And then he mocks Mello now because obviously Mello appears more of a sidekick to Trick rather than the way they used to be. And Mello says, well, Trick will fight you and he'll put his #1 contendership on the line. And Trick's like, what? But Trick shocked but accepts the conditions, as of course does Grayson Waller, to set up our main event of the evening, which was billed as a Battle of the Iron Survivors. If you're going to take away a title match from me, give me a match with a stupid name. How would you say that? Oh, that would be, of course, the Battle of the Iron Survivors. Continuing where we left off in 2023, I see. But of course, also last night was the final of the men's breakout tournament. Luca Crucifino not going all the way as I had predicted. And he went out in the first round. Riley Osborne, though, from Chase U was there. He's facing Obafemi. Obafemi got a nice vignette a little bit later on talking about his background. Riley Osborne, meanwhile, was writing an essay about what it would mean to become the next European star, referencing William Regal and Fit Finlay. Wonder why they picked those two. But yes, he was hyping himself up ahead of the tournament final that would come later on. Then two of my favourites took on each other. And another match, it's a bit worrying, this, right? Because Andy and I were talking about this in the office earlier on today, and Andy's, let's just say, less of a fan of NXT as I am. And he sort of said, why do you like this show compared to the others? And I think I settled on the fact that, A, it's just so much fun week in and week out, and also comparing it to where NXT used to be in the dark days. It's also possibly because my brain works in the same way as NXT, because I said yesterday Perez should beat Ariana Grace, obviously. Ariana Grace is sort of Teflon to defeat because of this beauty queen gimmick. But also, they're doing this story with Roxanne Perez that she's kind of losing it a little bit. So I said I didn't want her to get DQ'd for kicking too much ass. But, well, we'll get into it because it was a relatively brief match. Perez, obviously, the highest skilled person in this match. So she dominated. The only time Ariana Grace basically got some offense in was when she was cutting corners, using heel tactics, raking the eyes, etc. She made a bit of a comeback, and then Perez nailed her with pop rocks for the 1, 2, 3. And you thought, there you go. That was a fine little match. On to the next one. But no. After the match, Ariana Grace yells at Roxanne Perez, saying that she's got issues and she needs help. And then Perez snaps. She jumps Grace. She beats her up. The referee's trying to stop all this from happening. She puts her in a crossface. She puts on a sinister smile as she has to be dragged away, basically. And the referee decides, you know what? Because you didn't listen to me, because you kept beating her up after the bell, I'm reversing the decision. Ariana Grace gets the victory over Roxanne Perez. You sense this is not over. And I think they teased some point over Christmas, because obviously I went back and recapped NXT. I'm not going to miss out on that. They alluded to anger management, and I'd keep these two together for it, because I don't want to do the whole, oh, God, she can't be contained, Roxanne Perez. You need a bit of levity, a bit of lightness to it all. And Ariana Grace trying to preach the morals of being a beauty queen to Roxanne Perez, who's just a mint wrestler who should be on the main roster already. I think that could work really well. So as much as it was ridiculous and convoluted, kind of comes with the territory in NXT, I will allow it. Then Ava, she hasn't got a surname, she's the Rock's daughter, walks out of HBK's office and, clarifies it was a tough decision to cancel the NXT Championship match with Ilya, but because of his health, he had to be looked after. And Ava says, yeah, the reason why I've been helping out Shawn Michaels is because when Paul Heyman, remember when he came to NXT and he went Bloodline on his phone, he said, look, you know, NXT needs some help. You should be there to give it. And she announces that the Men's Dusty Cup will start next week. I already can't wait for that, especially because of a team that we got teased very soon, in fact. We get a vignette from Tiffany Stratton ahead of her match with Fallon Henley. The ranch. Do you know what the stipulation was for this, Nicholas? Tiffany Stratton versus Fallon Henley. It was a ranch hand or servant stipulation match. The loser would have to become that. Yes, and she says, we get a big montage of their feud, basically. Actually, before that match, Nikita Lyons sneaks up behind Blair Davenport and smacks a cabinet to say, I could have just taken your head off there. Blair says, you haven't got the killer instinct. And Nikita says, I won't sneak attack you. I'll do it right in front of your face. And they start yelling at each other, and they have to have people come in and separate them. But let's move on to the servant or ranch hand match. I just love these two's chemistry. I am very happy that they're going to keep working together, not only in terms of, from the moment they started butting heads and Fallon Henley cosplayed as Tiffany Stratton just brilliantly. Their styles really work well together. Fallon, no messing about. Obviously, she despises Tiffany Stratton, everything she stands for. She runs down to the ring, throws the towel in Tiffany Stratton's face. Brawl breaks out. They go to the outside. Henley just keeps beating on her, but then gets sent shoulder first into the post. That takes us to a break. When we come back, there's a double clothesline. They're both down. Henley hits a crucifix bomb for 2, but then Tiffany Stratton comes back, and Henley has to get out of the way before Stratton can execute the prettiest moonsault ever. They go out to the floor. Tiffany Stratton grabs a chair. Right, that's not allowed. Full view of the referee, this, by the way. She desperately wants to kick Fallon Henley's ass so much she's willing to get DQ, despite the stipulation. But the referee takes the chair away, and the push and pull between the ref and Tiffany has allowed Fallon to recover, and she just nails her with that shiniest wizard. 1, 2, 3. The result I was hoping for. Tiffany Stratton, we're going to get this in maybe next week, it may be in the coming weeks, has to be a ranch hand for Fallon Henley.
Oh my God.
This is going to be, if you like this sort of thing, and you're here, so it's going to be unbelievable. I'm so excited to preview this with the Dadleys next week and pitch some of the stuff. Like, you've got the obvious stuff. She's going to be shoveling poo. But I just love this show, man. I just love it.
Are you going to tell them before they come back if they haven't seen it?
I text Hamflet to say, did you hear what the match is tonight in NXT? Yeah. But I don't know. I sincerely doubt Sidge will have kept up to date on all this. And it's also one of those shows that you forget the moment we walk out of here on a Wednesday. So I might try and keep it quiet. But it might come out because I'm just so excited for it. Speaking of things I'm very excited for, by the way, I mentioned the Dusty Cup. And as always with this, it's like, I know we've got established tag teams, but what if we put them and them together? And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. This one is going to work. Adam Nicholas, have you heard about the new tag team that has formed? Well, the 2 new tag teams that have formed for the Dusty Cup.
I have not heard of the new. Oh, but surprisingly.
Yes, it's not been.
I've not heard about these tag teams.
Well, I'll give you. I'll do it the wrong way round. So later on in the show.
Hang on, you're already taking buttons.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got a little guess in my head.
Okay, where's my? He's not there. Well, there's a lot, but. You take one.
When I'm cleaning windows.
And you combine them with a. No! And you've got one of your teams. It's Nathan Fraser and Axiom teaming up, which will just be sensational. But despite how much I love those two, they're not my favorite team in this Dusty Cup. My favorite team is the new alliance of Bron Breakker and Baron Corbin. All right. Shawn Michaels, Booker of the Year, 2 years in a row already. Because Corbin has been watching Bron from afar after they brawled, of course. And he goes up to Bron. Bron's like, what the bloody hell do you want? And Corbin's like, you hear what Ava said, Dusty Cup, that sort of thing. Why don't we become a team? And Bron's like, I'll be a team with you. You must be desperate. Corbin says, if your brain was a quarter of the size of your ego, then you'd think about this, because no one wants to team with you because you're a smug, arrogant asshole. And this is why the writing is the best in NXT. Bron says, if I'm such an asshole, why do you want to tag with me then? Baron Corbin says, can I have an asshole too? Yeah. They're both assholes. And Corbin says, just picture the scene. You know, we'd run through everyone. Bron's like, yeah, me just killing dudes and Baldy behind me. Corbin says, you're not going to be doing that. I'll be kicking everyone's ass, and you'll be putting on your 10th coat of Tanner. Amazing.
Incredible. Is there now? Is the law here?
What?
Right? Because Baron Corbin is going to team with a man whose finishing move is
The spear.
who wears a lot of fake tan.
Yes.
Right? Who was Baron Corbin's first tag team partner in the inaugural Dusty Classic?
I don't know.
It was Rhino.
Was it?
It was indeed.
Oh.
Back when it was Rhino.
Well, I like that even more
He
now.
loves a spear. He loves the ball.
You got to spear in your gum.
Yeah, in the gum.
Not you, Edge. That's rubbish.
We're going off the
Fade to black.
Spoiled it for everyone.
So we get the promo following this for Obafemi ahead of the breakout tournament final, and there's a new gimmick sweeping through NXT. Remember how the car park used to be the most dangerous place in NXT? It's still very dangerous, as actually exemplified a little bit later on. But in the women's division, you're finding the car park now. Where fights start, and I know this has happened in various other places quite a lot, is the locker room. And you think, well, yeah, of course. But this is maybe not the second week in a row, but 2 out of the last 3 weeks, Cora Jade has got into a fight with someone because of a locker, right? Because again, my brain's soup because of Christmas. Either last week or the week before, Cora Jade's like, I'm back. Obviously, she returned. NXT did. I'm back, and I'm taking my space in the locker room. And I think it was Carmen Petrovic. So they had the little, everyone gets their little area. It's got a little coat hanger or whatever and gimmicks and stuff. Everyone's got their name above where it is, like a usual changing room. Yeah, like a locker room. But it's all in their branding. It's Fallon Henley's in a certain way. Tiffany Strands is in pink. So she comes in and is like, well, I'm back. I'm Cora Jade. She just rips Carmen Petrovic's sign down and pops hers up in the place. And then subsequently, Carmen Petrovic is like, someone's done to my locker. It's not been... Yeah. And they had a fight and Cora Jade won. So this time, Cora Jade walks into the locker room. Her locker is still there. Her name's still up. But Gigi Dolin is sat in a seat. And she says, piss off out of my seat. That's my locker, basically. And Gigi's like, no. Maybe when you respect other people's lockers, I'll respect you. And Cora's like, ooh, you don't want to go there. Gigi says, maybe I do. There's a fight set up for next week. That'll be a good match. Gigi Dolin and Cora Jade will be great.
She's got a good history with Doors here as well.
Of course, yeah. Jesus. We got the sit-down interview with Ridge Holland. This was, exciting in terms of seeing their new direction for Ridge Bloody Holland, but it was one of those things where, God, I've forgotten about the how unlucky that poor bloke's been. Former WCPW guy, I believe, as well. Only a couple of matches for us, but I was telling Andy, he was the sort of person who passed the airport test. He walked past me backstage, and I was like, who the bloody hell's that guy? And I used to play rugby. He's getting into wrestling now. Obviously, he's come into NXT. He had that, well, they referenced it here, that horrific injury just as he was partnering up with Pat McAfee. And then I completely forgot, actually, day one, not the one that just gone, the pay-per-view that they had at the start of, was that the start of 2023, I think? Or maybe 2 years ago, maybe 2022, yeah. So I forgot he got his face smashed in there. Someone's knee landed on his face, and he had to have his nose reconstructed. Obviously, they didn't reference all the Big E stuff. That's completely understandable. No blame not to Ridge Holland on that one either. But yeah, he's had his time with the Brawling Brutes, and then he comes into NXT again just recently, and then I don't know how true this is, the Ilya Dragunov injury, but obviously he talks about that. He previously mentions bringing his family out to America for this, and then I think he said his wife was pregnant when I also thought he only broke his ankle. I say only. I also thought he only did his ankle in, not he did his knee in as well. And there was like an awful shot of him with like pots on both legs. And then he's talking about his wife being pregnant and they're being, they're out in America because of him and just feeling so guilty about all this and, trying to feed his family, trying to pay the bills. Then, he comes back, brawling brutes, gets his face smashed in, has to have reconstructive surgery, has to pick himself back up again. Then, he comes into NXT and the injury to Ilya, he says, look, I respect Ilya. I meant everything I said. There was no malicious intent. He's not a monster who's trying to hurt people and take away careers. He knows what that's like. He doesn't have it in him to do that to someone else. But the point stands, he's in NXT for a reason, to prove to everyone who he is. He'll go through the roster man by man to prove himself and find redemption and show the NXT universe who Ridge Holland really is. I thought this was good in terms of getting people to invest in the Ridge Holland character. I really like him. Seems like a good bloke. And I do hope that he gets a decent run of it now in NXT. And, it's just so unlucky. Right. Next up, the next up was the NXT Men's Breakout Tournament final. But prior to that, Riley Osborne of JU is walking backstage. Thea Hale is walking behind him with JC Jane going, do I go and say something? And JC just shoves Thea Hale towards him. She says, good luck out there. I'm rooting for you. He says, thanks. He high-fives her and walks off. And she just stares at her hands and goes, oh, my God, did you see that? He high-fived me. I'm never washing my hand again. And JC Jane says, I wouldn't go that far. More on this later. Because it was time for Riley Osborne versus Obafemi. And these preceding things got me a little bit worried. Because I said, as much as I love Riley Osborne, Obafemi has to win it. From the moment we saw him in this breakout, from the moment actually you saw him in NXT a few months back, you could just tell this guy's got something about him. He's just an absolute beast. And he dominated early on because look at the size of him. But Osborne came back into it. He dodged a charge. Femi posted himself. And Riley Osborne saw his opportunity. Chase Hughes behind him. He goes up and over the ropes after being sent into them. Tries for a sunset flip, but Obafemi moves. But he gets a head scissors into a corkscrew moonsault to get a 2 count. Goes up top for the shooting star press. And you think if he hits this, maybe they'll do like a shock underdog victory thing. But as he goes to the shooting star press, Obafemi gets his knees up. Snake eyes to Riley Osborne. And then he suplexes his ass halfway across the ring. It looked awesome. Hit him with a huge power bomb. 1, 2, 3. Obafemi wins the men's NXT breakout tournament. Well-deserved, far and away the person that should have won this whole thing if it wasn't going to be Lexis King. And, I said this before. Obafemi actually works both ways. You want to have him versus Trick Williams if Trick beats Ilya? Great. You want to have Ilya Dragunov, the man who loves pain, against this guy? It's going to be awesome, that. Very entertaining, as the man himself would say. OTM had a vignette. Of course, they've got themselves a title opportunity via beating Chase U. Okay. They say the family have had a good run. Once they're done, all they're going to have, though, is a nickname. They might be champs now, but they haven't got the hunger anymore. Meanwhile, OTM, they're starving. They've got gold everywhere. They've got gold in their ears and their teeth, but they haven't got it around their waist yet. Next week, they're going to do that. They're going to make Tony D and Stacks know what it feels like to play their game. And then in comes, separates these two massive lads. In comes Scripps to make sure we... Pay attention, please. And says, we beat the streets and the system. Next week, we're going to pull the punk card and become your new NXT Tag Team Champions. Kiana James and Izzy Dame are getting chatted to by Kelly backstage. They want to know how this partnership came about. Obviously, Izzy helped Kiana win that match with Roxanne Perez. Izzy said, look, I saw all the comments on social media from people saying, who am I? So I wanted to establish myself. I made the right decision. I partnered up with Kiana James. Kiana says, look, Izzy's got loads of potential. You can either make friends or make money in this business, but I'm going to do both. I'm going to make money with my friend. In 2023, people learned that Kiana James was a threat. In 2024, it's going to be the same for Izzy. Like this partnership. Trick and Mello arguing backstage saying, how could you do that, basically? How could you just put my title shot on the line? Mello's been doing a lot of this recently. If you missed it over the Christmas break, Mello basically said, hey, you know what we should do? We should make your match with Ilya at New Year's Eve a triple threat match. Trick was like, what? why would I do that? It's like, oh, because we can both take out Ilya, and then, you know, one of us could win the title. So he's done that, and Trick said no to that. And then here, he's like, why have you put my title shot on the line against Waller? And he's like, well, you were going to beat Ilya anyway, and you've got this. You can beat Grayson Waller. And he says, and I'll be out there by your side. And Trick again has to say, I don't want you out there. I'm doing this by myself. This is upset Mello, but he allows it at least. Then we see Thea Hale and JC Jane walking backstage talking about how close Riley Osborne came. Thea's like, oh, do I text him? Budding romance, of course, despite the fact that Riley Osborne has announced over the festive period that he's engaged to Blair Davenport. But let's not let that get in the way of a story. So she thinks better of texting him. She thinks maybe I'll buy him a gift card. JC Jane's like, maybe you just leave him alone for a bit, let him cool down. In comes Andre Chase and Duke Bloody Hadson, and they say, great effort there from Riley, but onto the bigger and better things. Dusty Cup next week. Let's go. And JC Jane's like, no. I am taking over here. Not in a bad way. She's like, we need to be organized here. And you have proven, Andre Chase, Professor Chase, you cannot focus on two things at once. Your first and only focus now going forward is your debt. She said, instead, Chase, you will be in the Dusty Cup, but it will be Duke Bloody Hadson and Riley Osborne representing them. She says, look, the future of Chase U hangs in the balance. You're clearly not handling this well. It's written all over your face. I'm also going to help us get the money with Thea Hale's help. I'm going to dig down, help the university get up from the depths of hell and bring it back to prominence. I think she's completely forgotten she was a heel going into this, or playing a very sophisticated long game. But as it's WWE, we should, of course, let it play out. I like the fact that I also now have the arrival of Jinder followed by the arrival of The Rock as already a mini case study of, hey, guys, let it play out. So they walk off, and then Dennis the Menace. Oh, sorry.
Are you suggesting that you would rather have Jinder Mahal? Because that's how I feel about it.
I know you'd rather.
How do you feel about it?
I was rather excited to see The Rock, I've got to be honest.
I haven't seen him in at least a couple of
I was basically Samantha Irvin the moment that music hit.
That was good. I mean, it brings joy to people.
Yeah, just not to you. So they walk off, the Chase U lot, and Lyra Valkyria is like, oh, bloody hell, that was hard. And then in comes Dennis the Menace and says, oh, congratulations. Lyra's a little bit terrified of her, of course. You're still champion. That means everything is right in the world. See ya. He runs away, and Lyra's like, thanks, I guess. There is no way this is going to come back to bite Lyra whatsoever. Then we got the spot I alluded to a little bit earlier. It was Axiom chatting to Nathan Fraser.
When I'm cleaning windows.
Fraser's new gimmick, he's had quite a few. Well, his new gimmick is basically he badmouths people whilst they stood behind him. He did it a while back with Braun, I think it was. Yeah, because Braun killed him with that awesome spear. And Brooks Jensen was looking sad in the background because obviously him and Briggs are donezo now. But he says, initially he's quite good. He's like, no, I'm not going to say anything about main event. He did it with Dragunov as well, of course, didn't he? I'm not going to say anything about anyone bad. And Axiom's like, why don't we go into the Dusty Cup together? And he's like, you know what? That's a great idea. We're going to make loads of noise and we're going to prove that all the established tag teams have failed miserably. Idris and Offa and Malik Blade stood behind him at this point. And they said, well, kick your ass.
What happens if he does one day develop a gimmick where he's a window cleaner? Like literally what would happen? Did he explode?
I think I'm going to be on the booking committee by the end of 2024 for NXT.
Maybe you should say it on a podcast. Like his new gimmick will be
Yes.
going to be a window cleaner.
What with the crawler? The high flyer, he's the crawler. So, someone who's been very busy and has texted me today to inform me that he is concentrating very much on the title match and so unfortunately can't join us today. Stacks! He's got a lovely velvet jacket. I'm a big fan of a velvet jacket. I actually got one for Christmas. Randomly. Got a velvet jacket for Christmas. He walks out in a velvet jacket. He's there with Tony and with Adriana, who I realized they've never actually introduced. They've had her, like, threatening Chase U. They've had her in bits for at the restaurant, but they've never actually introduced her. So about 2 months too late, they're like, oh, by the way. So they walk out this door and they get asked about the comments from OTM regarding the title match. And Tony D says, oh, first off, Mr. Chase ain't even close to being off the hook. Now, because of the losing ways, we're on the hook for a goddamn tag team title match next week against OTM. Stack says, that's right, boys. I think we're I've been practicing over Christmas. That's right, boys. I think we're giving Mr. Chase a little too much grace. But regardless, a deal's a deal, OTM. You guys want to run your mouth? But he gets cut off by Adriana, who says, forget OTM. I don't know why she's an old lady. Forget OTM. You can handle it next week. You two are gonna keep flapping your gums like a fish, or you're gonna introduce me. Tony says, oh, all right, ladies and gentlemen. You've been seeing this face do business for a couple of weeks now. A couple of months, actually, Tony, but still. She is the glue of the D'Angelo family. Do you know what her surname is? Huh? The glue. Do you know what her name is? It is Adriana, but what's her surname? No. Oh, it's Adriana Rizzo. Adriana says, hey, how you doing? Stack says, the Riz always take care of the biz. He said that. He said that. I've not made that up. The Riz always take care of the biz. She gets the job done. Yeah. Can't before the horse.
Also, I like that he's called Tony D'Angelo.
Yeah.
She's called Adriana. If they weren't already just stealing from Sopranos,
Yeah.
they're just giving up on new names now. We'll just call it. If she says Christopher
Yeah.
on this show.
I think they haven't got a Chris. They haven't got a Chris.
If they get a Christopher.
Yeah.
Anytime soon. Or if her new gimmick becomes that she has IBS, will also be too close.
That's how they get the victories. Anyway, Tony says, oh, you want to be a wise ass? You'll punch you in the mouth, capiche? And Riz says, yeah, you two would know. And they go to leave. They go to leave because that's their night's work in NXT, apparently. Open the trunk of their car, and Joe Gacy's laying in there. I love the new Joe Gacy character. He beat, what's his name? Joe Coffey the other week. Yeah. Battle of the Joes. I'm so good we missed that. And he says, oh, sorry, guys, I've been in here for a few hours. I needed a quiet place to think. Tony's like, what happened to the guy that we had in there? And Joe says, I thought you were taking him to the bridge, so, see ya. So I couldn't work out if that meant he thought, oh, I thought they were going to kill a man, so I let him go. Or he thought, well, I thought you were going to take him to the bridge, so whoever you had in this trunk, I've killed them for you. Bye-bye. Main event time. Battle of the Alien Survivors. Trick Williams versus Grayson Bloody Waller. I love Grayson Waller. I thought he was sensational in NXT. I think he's made a brilliant jump to the main roster. And he's the perfect person to come in and just be a bit of a stopgap because Trick Williams, early on, he's got a new T-shirt. He's whooping everyone's ass. But Waller gets his ass beaten and then hits him with one clothesline and just says, I just whoop you, Trick. It's not that simple. I think you have to win to be able to say that. But it takes us to a break. We come back. Waller's talking more trash. He's getting nailed in the mouth every time. Tries for that rolling stunner of his. That gets cut off. Middle rope rock bottom from Trick Williams gets 2. Waller hits him with that rolling downward spiral that he does. That gets a 2 count for him. Trick Williams hits a jumping neck breaker. And basically, at that point, Grayson Waller is in position for Trick Williams' big flying knee finisher. And this is the moment that Carmelo Hayes decides it's time for me to come down to ringside. So he runs down to ringside. He jumps on the apron. And Trick Williams we all know where's this heading. He's there going, what the bloody hell are you doing, Melo? I'm kind of in the middle of something right now. I've got my #1 contenderships on the line. And you think, here we go. He's going to turn back round. Grayson Waller is going to hit him with his finish, seal it, and get a bloody title shot, which, you know, makes the heel-face dynamic more understandable for the title, but not ideal for someone like Trick Williams, especially off the back of winning the Iron Survivor. But I forgot to mention, earlier on in the show, they say that Shawn Michaels has tweeted that a former NXT champion is coming to NXT tonight. He's intrigued by the show, intrigued by the main event, intrigued by New Year's Evil. He's coming along to watch. So as Grayson Waller is rubbing his hands with glee on the outside, ready to slide in, finish off Trick Williams and steal his title shot, who should appear next to him? The referee's distracted, by the way, by Mello and Trick arguing. Who should appear next to him? But Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens appears next to Grayson Waller, shins him, throws him in the ring. Grayson Waller stands back up. Trick Williams says, 1 second, Mello. Turns around, flying knee to Grayson Waller. 1, 2, 3. Trick Williams wins. He retains his #1 contender status. And everyone is sent home happy. I don't know whether this is going to factor into SmackDown because, of course, Kevin Owens is in the big title, the playoff with Santos Escobar to see who faces Logan Paul at the Pate for the US title. I still think Kevin Owens probably wins that one just because of the way that works out. But, yeah, a continuation of this Mello Trick storyline that could run all the way to Stand and Deliver, to WrestleMania weekend, in my opinion, if they decide not to bring up either Mello or Trick, or both of them, arguably, to the main roster. I think they're both trending in that direction. Obviously, Trick could do with a bit more time, in my opinion, but Mello's been more than ready. He's already appeared on the main roster for them, of course. But, yeah, Trick Williams making the best of a bad situation, I think it's fair to say, because I assume I'm not going to be so nice. You've got two different situations here. Either they knew Dragunov was never going to make that match from the moment he got injured in that match with Ridge Holland, and they just went, let's just pretend like it's, you know, Survivor Series. Was it Survivor Series 99? Where they just went, yeah. No, it wasn't 99. Yeah, the Austin one. They were like, yeah, he's definitely going to be in it. And then on the night, they were like, bloody hell, you never guess what's happened. I have to get a big show in now. They've either done that or they've gone, let's leave it as late as we possibly can, or just let's see how he is on the day. And unfortunately, Dragunov is not able to compete. Regardless.
For the people at home who are uncertain about this, are you comparing Ilya Dragunov to Stone Cold Steve Austin?
I think I am. I think I am.
Stone Cold Steve Ilya.
That appears to what we have ended up at. Yeah. But yeah, look, love New Year's Evil. And a bit like Day One, a great springboard for WWE, or NXT, I should say, in particular, to see where we're heading this year, and just a nice confirmation we're getting more of the bollocks that we've all got used to over the years with NXT. Very excited to see where we go next from here. And just once more, if you haven't seen it,
Oh my God.
watch Joaquin Wilde's insane dive. He literally, I'm going to tweet this, he became the physical embodiment of Yeet. That is what he did in that.
If you were on a chair, like from the chair now,
He's like, he does I showed you the thing. He's doing the Lois from Family Guy down the stairs spot, basically. That's what it is. It was so good. Really enjoyed it.
the only way we're going to understand is if you jump off the chair.
I tell you, I'll do the wrap up, and then for YouTube viewers, I'll do the spot. Okay?
Yeah, that sounds fair.
Can we have what's the framing like with this camera here? How tight in is that?
I mean, you probably get cut off.
So I've got to clear here, haven't I, to get out of. I'm gonna jump off. Okay, I'll do that. Okay. Anyway, let us know your thoughts on New Year's Eve on X at What Culture WWE. Watch there. You can follow both of us. You can follow Adam Nicholas at It's Adam Nicholas. You can follow me at Adam Wilborn. Follow us all, as I said, at What Culture WWE. Make sure you subscribe to What Culture Wrestling wherever you get your podcasts from for daily wrestling podcasts. I'll be back later on today to preview AEW Dynamite, and don't worry, it's not going to be like this for much longer. The Dadley Boyz will be rejoining me in the coming days. They're just enjoying some well-earned time off. But for now, this has been the NXT New Year's Evil review. My thanks to Adam Nicholas for joining and putting up with me for the last 45 minutes. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you soon. So he sort of goes, he's there, and can you see I'm still in shot? Okay. I mean, he stood up like that, right? But, and I do it so you can see. He gets into position, right? I don't want to break my ankle doing this. And he goes, LWO. And then they fling this middle rope forward. And he, no joke, goes like this. Thanks for watching, everyone. Bye.